Captain Kirk being the greatest captain. 947. Communications between both spaceships is re-established, and Captain wants to speak to Spock to get ship status, but Commodore says he is in command of the Enterprise according to every rule in the book. Again, Commodore is higher in rank than Captain or First Officer. Okay. 948. Captain says you are the lunatic who attacked that doomsday device. He says you are speaking to a senior officer, Captain. Captain tells First Officer to take command of the spaceship based on his personal authority as Captain of the Enterprise. 949. First Officer relieves him, the Commodore, but he resists, so he threatens to place him under arrest. He gives up command and is sent to sick bay for exam under guard. 950. First Officer says he can register a complaint about his removal from command, assuming they survive to reach a star base. Problems. The crew agree. 951. Captain tells him to circle a path around the doomsday device and come to him to pick him up. 952. Doomsday device was causing subspace interference, so they couldn't send messages to warn Starfleet. Must survive to this interference to send message. The problem: how did they communicate? How did they communicate between ship to ship? I mean, in close range. If 953. It consumes energy from rubble of planet, but they are running out of energy on the spaceship. Problem: can use energy from stellar objects. And that's critique of Roddenberry or the Enterprise. There's a lot of light. You can use light waves or gravitational waves. There's a lot of mass you can use as source of energy. There's a lot of, even on this, for example, the star, like our sun, there's thousands of nuclear bombs exploding per second. Surely you can use that energy for something. And they're surrounded by stars. Page 98. Still doomsday device. 954. Commodore attacks security guard escort and escapes from spaceship in a shuttlecraft. The problem: should have kept shuttlecraft and treasure in shuttle bay and shuttle bay doors under encrypted lock code. Okay, 955. They detect that the Commodore escaped too late. Problem: they didn't use a tractor beam, or maybe even they could have used a transporter to beam the shuttle or just the Commodore. 956. He says he's going to ram the shuttlecraft down the throat of the doomsday device. They say he'll be killed. He said he was ready for death since he lost his crew. 957. Commodore enters device and he dies in an explosion. 958. Maybe he didn't die for nothing. The helmsman sees that there is an energy drop in the device output. The first officer tries to take readings, but the hull prevents. Problem: why not measure it from in front, far away? Does it have protective shield till it opens it for fuel? Question mark. Now this is a good episode. This episode is Doomsday Device is a great one, and in a way, Captain Kirk is like a messiah here, because the Doomsday Device is killing planets, could kill millions of people, and Captain Kirk risks his life at the last second to try and destroy this device. Okay, 959. Captain Kirk says that the Commodore had the right idea, only not enough power. He intends to ram the damaged spaceship, the Constellation, down the device's throat, since the overload of the impulse engines will result in a huge fusion explosion. Right, he actually asks Mr. Spock how many megatons the explosion will be by overloading the impulse engines. Captain Kirk knows, but Mr. Spock says yes, but he adds a few decimal points. 960. First officer says he'll be killed, and it may not be enough anyway to stop the doomsday device. This is on page 99. 961. He says he doesn't intend to die. Chief engineer will program a 30-second delay before explosion, and they can beam him off the spaceship Constellation just in time. Need perfect timing, and transporter was damaged and not 100% working, so it's a big gamble actually. There was really not much else they could do. If they didn't do that, that planet killer would have gone on from star system to star system, and it was heading towards the Earth, towards Earth's direction. 962. Engineer fixes bomb and gives back the spaceship, goes back to spaceship with rest of repair crew. 963. Captain goes towards the device and triggers the delayed bomb and asks to be beamed aboard, but transporter fails. Time is running out, only seconds. 964. From the captain's chair, the first officer, Mr. Spock, tells engineer to try inverse phasing with his tool. He had some kind of electronic tool. It works in the last few seconds. 965. The doomsday device absorbs the spaceship and explodes inside of it. It destroys it. Couldn't attack it from outside, even with greatest weapons. Captain Kirk managed to beam out just in time, even with a finicky transporter. 966. Captain says first time that a doomsday device was used to destroy another doomsday device. First peaceful use of it. Well, in the movie, I think First Contact about Dr. Cochrane, the super genius who invented warp drive. Well, I don't know if you really need something special to go fast and speed of light, but because it's not really a limit. I think it's only a limit of perception. But in that movie, Dr. Cochrane used a nuclear missile. He converted it to a warp ship, and that's when he flew. That's when he met the Vulcans, and he got them interested in Earth. So that was first contact was established. So that was a nuclear missile. Okay, 967. The first officer says he wonders if there are other such doomsday devices out there in the universe. Well, the captain says he hopes not. This is Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock talking. Okay, 968. The doomsday device did show some signs of intelligent behavior, but not friendly. Problem, is it alive? Question mark. Who created the question mark? Okay, sensors fail, defense and attack. Sure, it is unclear. Why was it created? Question mark. A war elsewhere? Question mark. Robot crew on it? Question mark. Okay, this is page 100. Okay, this is Star Trek: The Original Series Principles, 2265 about. This is the Nazis episode, 969. Okay, brilliant historian went to study a planet but never came back, so Enterprise is sent to investigate. 970, away team of 2 top officers go down to the planet to investigate. Team there. 971, they find officer and Nazi in they find officer in Nazi uniforms chasing and then beating and then taking a person prisoner, calling him a pig. 972. Officers are amazed how a movement of the Earth which existed over 300 years earlier on Earth is exactly duplicated here. So that's a question. 973. A broadcast on monitor on the street gives a news flash and shows the Führer and a Nazi officer being decorated by the fatherland. Note, should we have these at least at shopping? These monitors. 974. Captain and first officer says that the historian from Earth is in Nazi group, so they get the Nazi uniforms by knocking out soldiers to try to get closer to leader. Okay, problem. When soldiers will wake up, then they'll report this and everyone will be on alert. Even if kill them or kidnap them, their absence at work or home will be noticed. 975. Plan. Top officers try to get into guarded government building where a leader is. 976. Approaching door, a top Nazi official comes out and first officer forgets to salute him. So captain excuses him, saying he just caught several people single-handedly. 977. Nazi official says he looks pale. He should see a doctor. Says he will. 978. Despite helmet, the Nazi officer notices that first officer's eyes and ears seem different and asks him to remove his helmet. He does, and so they are caught and taken into custody. 979. The top officers are beaten with the whip. That's Mr. Spock and Kirk, I think, and Captain Kirk. The two officers are beaten with a whip over and over, to make them talk. Blood shows on their back, and first officer, Mr. Spock, has green blood, however, because he's an alien. 980. They asked them what the devices they brought were. They refused to say. The prime directive or blows their cover? Problem. The weapons and communicators are so easy to use and are unlocked that enemy possessing them can easily use them and see what they are for, and if their technology is much inferior, even if their technology is much inferior. Should have some kind of password or something. 981. Weapons and communicators are sent to the SS lab and are dismantled to figure out how they work. Part of them sent to the main laboratory. 982. Before leaving spaceship, the doctor implanted two transponders under the skin in their arms to help localize them, or if they didn't report by a certain time, or beam them no matter what they are doing or what their condition is in a safety precaution. 983. Higher Nazi official walks into the interrogation chamber and says to put them in prison for an hour. Other Nazi official objects that in regulations and interrogation, then execution. He says he got no answers from them yet. Page 102. 984. In prison, they meet the person they saw on the street before being beaten. 985. Tactic. Top two officers remove the two transponders from their arms to help break open the prison door. Prisoner thinks they are trying to kill himself. They use a metal sheet from the bed which they remove. They build a strong laser beam by using light bulb energy prison to energize transponders to fire the prison door bar securing it, and it destroys it and door opens. They have a great aim. One officer was on the shoulder of the other. Problem. Initial goal of those devices was not foreseen. It should have. Okay, 986. Tactic. There is a guard outside the prison corridor, so first officer goes out of cell and hides, and captain screams, I'll talk, I'll talk. So guard comes to see him. The first officer comes from behind him and pinches him on the shoulder and knocks him unconscious. The Vulcan grip. 987. The other prisoner hears they have to reach the laboratory for their equipment and says to take him with them or they'll never find the laboratory. So three of them go together. They have the uniform. 988. Captain wears Nazi uniform and is armed and walks through corridor pretending to hold the other two as prisoners in transit. 989. Tactic, see later. Along the way, Captain pretends that pig pushed him into a Nazi officer walking by them, and so Captain criticizes Pig and tells the Nazi officer he is taking pigs to laboratory for experiments. Page 103. Tactic, continued. This is Principle 990, Star Trek Original Series 2265. Later see that the captain just bumped into the Nazi officer to get the keys so they can get into the laboratory. Some of these episodes have a lot of great ideas or principles in them. There was 79 episodes really, or maybe 80 because the first episode was recreated by the one that Roddenberry created. Though he really did it later anyway, in 2 episodes as the Menagerie. Okay. 991. They enter laboratory and find that the communicators are there but disassembled and phasers were sent to the main laboratory. 992. First officer says he may be able to make one communicator work by combining parts from both. Now, if you have 2 machines, none of them work, you might be able to make one of them work by using both combined. I think that's a good idea from Star Trek. I think I used it for computer. When if you have 2 computers, neither one of them works, you might be able to use parts from one on the other one so the other computer will work. Because the parts are interchangeable. Okay, 993. They need help. They can't take on the whole Nazi army alone. 994. God they bumped into tries to open the door and realizes that his keys are missing, so he suspects Captain took it. So goes looking for them and finds them in the laboratory. One of them was behind the door when it opened just in case. He knocks him down, so they have another Nazi uniform. Problem, should they have locked the door? They took his keys, so he didn't have it anymore. 995. The 3 leave the laboratory. Problem, why wasn't there anyone else in the laboratory? Question mark. They have 2 uniforms, so they carry the 3rd person on a stretcher, saying he is dead and has to be taken away. They pass the guards at the door of the building. Problem, hard to imagine 2 spies in Nazi uniforms going through a Nazi government building carrying a stretcher of a supposedly dead person who is really alive also. Okay, page 104. Still the Nazis episode. 996. The pig was Zoan. Alien takes the 2 top officers to the central hiding place of his people in that area. 997. The Zone friends are worried when they see strangers, let alone dressed in Nazi uniforms. 998. But he says to his brother that they were beaten also and imprisoned and saved his life by helping him escape. 999. Suddenly Nazi officers come in and say that have all been found out and captured. Nazi woman points a gun at the captain. It seems hopeless, but he grabs her and takes the gun away from her. Others tell her not to kill her nor shoot. Problem: should that gun be empty? Anyway, how can you disarm a person holding a gun at you so easily? Okay, this is it. Okay, 1000. Principle 1000. Star Trek the original series. They tell Captain she is on. They tell Captain she is on their side. It was only a test, since the methods of the fatherland are very thorough, and they couldn't risk it. Their whole people depend on it. 1001. But Captain said she is a Nazi officer. They saw her decorated by the Nazi party. 1002. Plan. They say it was only a plan to help them get inside. Her father helped her to be decorated. 1003. First officer says he needs place to work. The priority is to get communicated to work in case need to contact the spaceship for help. Okay, page 105. 1004. Captain says they must get to see the Führer. They say you can't. He is too heavily guarded. 1005. The captain tells them that he is the captain of a spaceship and that his first officer, they are from another planet. Aliens. 1006. They say they are also aliens who came here trying to help the Akosians, and it worked at first till Nazis came to power and a few years earlier. Captain says the Führer is also an alien. He knows, but all this does not make sense. He was not supposed to interfere. Now nor is he the kind of person to do this kind of thing. 1007. They say there's a speech for television by the Führer soon, but only top officials can get in. She can get in, but no one else. 1008. Plan. Captain and the other two go with the decorated spy Nazi in 2 cars with cameras and lights and get into the building with her. 1009. Tactic. They find room where the Führer is and take pictures there with the guards. The first officer manages to peek inside the speech room and sees the Führer, but the Führer is motionless. 1010. They leave speech room area and first officer tells the captain that the Führer seems drugged. Captain says that he may be drugged, psychotic or whatever it is. We need the doctor to help diagnose or treat him. 1011. The captain decides he must bring down the doctor immediately. The communicator works. First officer fixes it, but it is a few points off the frequency channel. It's a funny thing to happen. 1012. Computer creates Nazi uniform of colonel, rank for doctor. They go to a coat room and the doctor is beamed there. Recall the other spies were at their base and also had uniforms of high-ranking Nazi officials for captain and first officer, but he could have gotten them from computer before at spy base. The spy sees the beam down and says that now he believes they are aliens. 1013. Plan. The communicator communication from building is detected and so security searches the building. An officer discovers them in the closet and it seems hopeless, but captain says the colonel or the doctor had too much to drink and he should know better. The officers and guards say it was wise to hide him and left. A nice lie saved them. 1014. But that was the same officer that put them in prison when tortured, so they didn't recognize. Why didn't he recognize them? Question mark. Zaon person says that officer is really also one of them, the spy. 1015. Captain asks why there is a war between Arcosians and Zounds, and it is told it is hatred of others that keeps them together, else they wouldn't survive. 1016. Have medical tricorder question mark. They go with doctor and break into the speech chambers of the Führer. Seems to order fleet to attack and destroy the zone. Doctor says the Führer is drugged, but he can't tell which drug without further analysis. It is a strong drug. 1017. Captain says to give him a stimulant. He says he can't. He could kill him if he doesn't know what drug is in his system. Captain says they have no choice. He must wake up and explain what happened, or even stop the war before it is too late. Doctor says he can only give him a general stimulant, and he does. 1018. The Führer wakes up and he's asked why he did this. He says most efficient government in history, Nazism. First rose officer says he's in time. They rose time from bankruptcy to one step before world domination. Führer says it worked at first, but another person took over who was evil, keeping Führer only as a figurehead. 1019. Tactic plan. The Führer goes unconscious again. Captain says to increase the dosage. Doctor says you can't. Just then, officers opened the door. Officers came and opened the door. Captain tells the first officer to take off his helmet, and when they opened the door, the captain says, once again, woman found a spy among us. He was trying to assassinate the Führer. Take him to the real person in charge. 1020. True spy officer says pass him to real ruler on his authority at lecture auditorium. 1021. Plan. Who is filming? Captain is left behind and gives him another shot of stimulant and slaps the Führer to help bring him into consciousness so he will make speech and recall all the Nazi soldiers. Problem, the camera is off. 1022. Führer wakes up and makes speech on television, and the curtains to the window of the room are open. He calls